40 Aegis dreadnoughts translated directly behind the Dominion formation using experimental gravitic slip tunneling. A maneuver believed impossible. Human ships opened fire before Dominion sensors recalibrated. Stellar shear cannons lanced through capital warforms. Entire alien vessels split in half. Human drone swarms, millions strong, detachable bays and swarmed like metallic locusts. They targeted weapon nodes, engine clusters, command cores. The Dominion fleet staggered. Dominion gravitic distorters warped space-time, crushing several human ships instantly. 3 dreadnoughts imploded, but human formations did not scatter. They tightened. Each ship linked through quantum entanglement arrays. Every captain saw through every sensor. Every weapon fired with shared targeting solutions. When one ship died, its AI core transferred command data to the rest in microseconds. Dominion had fought countless species. They had never fought a fleet that learned mid-battle. Human adaptive algorithms wrote firing strategies in real time. Within 12 minutes, Dominion casualties reached 18%. Unprecedented. Within 20, 35%. Panic rippled through alien command channels. Reports flooded the chamber. Dominion losses mounting. Supply lines severed. Secondary fleet collapsing. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Dominion was retreating. But humanity did not pursue blindly. They executed phase 2. Black Horizon was not just military, it was psychological. As Dominion ships fled, they found jump nodes disabled. Exit vectors mined with relativistic kill vehicles. Human cyber warfare infiltrated Dominion command architecture. Ancient encryption cracked by quantum brute force. Council broadcast eject. Across the galaxy, a new transmission appeared, President Reyes again, but now behind her burning Dominion vessels. To the Galactic Council, you witnessed Arcadia IV bot. You called it corrective. You called it necessary. Her voice lowered. You were wrong. The humanity did not come to the stars seeking conquest. We came seeking neighbor. You answered with genocide. Her eyes scanned unseen alien delegates. Understand this clearly. We'll not exterminate you. We will not annihilate your worlds as you did ours. Because we are better than you. A pause heavy as gravity. But if you raise your hand against us again, the projection shifted schematics of Dominion core. Worlds highlighted in red. We know where you live. Silence. We have mapped every shipyard, every relay, every throne. Arcadia V was a lesson. And now you have learned one for the first time in their history. Dominion citizens saw vulnerability, saw their fleets burning, saw human dreadnoughts holding position at the edge of their territory. Carl Thun demanded full mobilization, but mobilization required logistics. Logistics humanity had crippled. He ordered total war. His own advisors hesitated. Lost projections exceeded acceptable thresholds. Dominion doctrine did not account for equals, and humanity was proving equal. Carl Thun personally led a counteroffensive with the remaining First Armament Fleet. They met humanity near the shattered remains of Arcadia IV. Debris fields glowed. The battlefield became a graveyard. This time, the Dominion unleashed planet killer class weaponry. Human dreadnought Aegis Prime took a direct hit. Whole integrity failed. Admiral Shen remained on bridge. Hold formation. The ship detonated in a blinding nova, deliberately overloading its core. The explosion tore through 3 Dominion flagships. Human sacrifice calculated, intentional, strategic. Dominion morale faltered. Then humanity unveiled the final contingency. From behind Arcadia's debris emerged structures long concealed within the planet's fragmented core. Automated war platforms. Arcadia V had not been defenseless. It had been bait. In its mantle, humanity had embedded resonance arrays during terraforming. Dormant, waiting. When the Dominion cracked the planet, they activated the trap. The debris field became a weapon. Human command transmitted a single code, vengeance. The fragments of Arcadia IV Night in synchronized antimatter cascades, a controlled stellar scale detonation. Dominion fleet formations shattered under relativistic shockwaves. Hundreds of warforms disintegrated. Carol Thun's flagship crippled. Human ships surged forward through the chaos. Enough boarding torpedoes penetrated alien hulls. Marines in powered exosuits carved through corridors, close quarters, combat in vacuum. Dominion Command Corps seized. Karolth uncaptured alive. They called it the Dominion of Athernox, and it controlled 80% of the known galaxy, not through diplomacy, not through alliance, but through fear so absolute that even the stars seemed to dim at the mention of its name. For 10,000 cycles, it had expanded without meaningful resistance, assimilating civilizations, breaking empires, and rewriting history in its own image. Entire species were reduced to footnotes in Dominion archives, categorized by how efficiently it had been pacified. Its fleets were not merely large, they were inexhaustible. Planet-sized shipyards orbited neutron stars. War moons drifted along trade corridors like silent executioners. Every hyperspace lane was monitored and militarized. The Dominion did not ask for loyalty enough. It demanded submission and enforced compliance, with public annihilations broadcast across interstellar networks as cautionary theater. The Dominion's high throne was occupied by Archon Vyrix Tal, a being of immense age and calculated cruelty. His species had long ago replaced biological weakness with engineered perfection. Neural lattices enhanced by quantum processors, bodies reinforced with adaptive exoskeletons, lifespans measured in millennia. Vyrix did not rage, he did not threaten, he simply observed and ordered. Entire civilization vanished between his breaths. When a cluster of frontier systems refused to triple their tribute quotas, he authorized stellar reduction. 3 suns were destabilized in synchronized collapse. The resulting supernova erased 12 inhabited worlds. The event was cataloged as a fiscal correction. The fear was the Dominion's most refined technology. Enough. Every subject species was required to maintain an orbital monument, an obelisk broadcasting Dominion doctrine 24 hours a day. Children learned the history of their own subjugation before they learned their native alphabets. Rebellion was rare, not because it was impossible, but because it visibly futile. When insurgents emerged on the jungle world of Koresh, Dominion and forces did not invade immediately. They surrounded the planet and waited. Supplies dwindled. Communications were jammed. When desperation forced the rebels to attack, Dominion fleets eliminated them in minutes. The entire sequence was transmitted galaxy-wide with commentary from Dominion strategists analyzing the inefficiencies of resistance. 80% of the galaxy lived beneath this shadow. Trade flowed because the Dominion allowed it. Wars between minor species were permitted only if they did not disrupt tribute schedules. Scientific advancement required Dominion licensing. Even art was regulated. No depiction of hope beyond Dominion authority was allowed. The message was clear: survival was a privilege granted from above. And yet, beneath the suffocating order, tension simmered. In the remaining 20% of the galaxy, fractured territories, hidden nebulae, uncharted dark sectors. Rumors circulated, whispers of civilizations that had slipped through Dominion expansion, of fleets built in secret, of weapons capable of challenging even the Archon's supremacy. The Dominion dismissed these as myths. It had crushed greater threats in the past. It had fought machine uprisings, hive mind swarms, and reality warping anomalies born failed experiments. Each had fallen. Statistical inedibility favored the Dominion. It always had. But control bred complacency. The Dominion's greatest strength, its overwhelming presence, was also its blindfold. When you control 80% of everything, you stop believing the remaining 20% matters. Archon Vyrix Tal understood fear as a weapon, but he did not understand defiance as a resource. Every time he annihilated a world to maintain order, he believed he was reinforcing stability. In truth, he was refining hatred. Across subjugated systems, engineers quietly sabotage production quotas by fractions small enough to avoid detection. Scientists embedded encrypted messages in harmless research data. Merchant captains rerouted supplies through shadow networks. The Dominion saw numbers that satisfied projections. It did not see the coordination growing beneath those numbers. Then came the incident at the Veil of Noreth. A Dominion patrol fleet entered the Nebula region to suppress what intelligence described as minor smuggling irregularities. The fleet did not return. At first, analysts assumed a navigational anomaly. Then a second fleet was dispatched. It too vanished, though fragmented telemetry escaped before silence. The data showed ships being torn apart not by crude, explosive, or primitive plasma fire, but by precision strikes exploiting microscopic weaknesses in Dominion shield harmonics, weaknesses known only to Dominion engineers. Panic did not spread publicly. The Dominion did not panic, but within its strategic core, questions emerged. How could an enemy understand their system so intimately enough? How could resistance forces coordinate across sectors saturated with surveillance? The answer was simple and terrifying. 80% control still leaves 20% free to think. The Dominion increased patrols. It tightened tribute enforcement. It staged another demonstration, this time extinguishing the atmosphere of a rebellious mining world with tailored nanophage clouds. Billions suffocated as the broadcast repeated the same message: resistance is extinction. But the effect was different now. Instead of silence, there was calculation. Across the oppressed galaxy, something shifted. The Dominion still ruled. Its fleets still dominated hyperspace corridors. Its archon still issued decrees from a throne forged in the heart of a captured star. Yet for the first time in 10,000 cycles, the Dominion faced an adversary it could not immediately see or crush. Not a single empire, not a unified armada, but a convergence of will among those that had tried to break. 80% of the galaxy remained under its iron command. Monuments still broadcast doctrine. Tribute still flowered. Fear still lingered in every orbital shadow. But fear, once absolute, had cracked, and in that crack, possibility began to breathe. The Dominion of Aethernox had mastered domination. It had perfected annihilation. It had rewritten the rules of power across most of existence, yet it had forgotten one immutable truth of the cosmos: control is never complete and terror is never eternal. Somewhere in the 20% it did not own, the future was assembling, quietly, patiently, waiting. Humanity is newly spacefaring and considered primitive by the galactic powers. In 800 world, do not another point. When humanity first stepped beyond its solar system, the galaxy barely noticed. Their ships were crude fusion-driven vessels wrapped in ally hulls that still bore the design philosophy of atmospheric aircraft. Their faster than light travel relied on unstable corridor folding that required precise calculations and long recharge cycles. To the established powers of the Orion Expanse, humanity was not a threat, not a rival, not even an inconvenience. It was a curiosity, an underdeveloped species that had stumbled into interstellar space centuries later than most. Galactic surveys classified Earth as technological, tier 3, primitive, volatile, culturally fragmented, and strategically irrelevant. The Galactic Concuil, an assembly of dominant civilizations spanning thousands of systems, reviewed humanity's first contact transmission with mild amusement. The recording contained greetings in dozens of human languages, mathematical constants, music, and an earnest declaration of peaceful intent. Conclave observers noted the emotional tone as excessively sentimental. Their assessment concluded that humanity would either be absorbed economically within a few centuries or fractured by own internal divisions before it could matter. Humanity's first diplomatic envoy arrived in ships that required visible heat venting during deceleration. Their hull plating showed microfractures from early FTL stress. Their weapons, railguns and directed plasma arrays, were considered obsolete by galactic standards. The more advanced civilizations had long since shifted to gravitic lensing cannons and phase disruption beams. To them, human engineering looked industrial, heavy, inefficient. But primitive did not mean stagnant. Humanity had emerged from a history saturated with competition and relentless innovation under pressure. Scarcity had shaped them. So had war. Their homeworld had been divided by ideology, culture, and nation for millennia before achieving planetary unification. That unification itself had come not from conquest, but from necessity, climate crisis, resource depletion, and near extinction events forcing cooperation. Survival had been their greatest teacher. The conclave underestimated that lesson. Human colonies spread cautiously to nearby star systems. They terraformed aggressively, using methods considered environmentally crude but effective. Where other species took centuries to prepare a world, humans did it in decades. Their genetic engineering programs adapted crops to alien soils with startling speed. Their industrial output scaled exponentially once established. Human settlements were not elegant, but they were resilient. Each colony was built redundancy layered upon redundancy. Independent power grids, distributed manufacturing, localized defense networks. They planned as if something would inevitably go wrong. Other civilizations noticed their population growth first. Human birth rates remained high even after interstellar expansion. Their diaspora spread quickly, forming trade links and cultural exchanges across sectors that previously been economically stagnant. They were eager to learn, eager to trade, eager to experiment. In conclave markets, human merchants asked questions others would not. They bought outdated technologies and improved them. They reverse engineered civilian grade shielding and modified it for asteroid mining operations, and then quietly adapted those improvements into defensive applications. Militarily, humanity was dismissed outright. Their fleet numbers were modest. Their capital ships were smaller than standard conclave cruisers. Their command structures were decentralized, relying heavily on autonomous AI systems that older civilization distrusted. Conclave analysts predicted that in the event of a conflict, humanity would collapse within weeks against any Tier 1 power. What those analysts failed to model was human adaptability under threat. In early border skirmishes with pirate coalitions, human ships performed unexpectedly well. They did not rely solely on superior firepower. They used electronic warfare aggressively, saturating enemy sensors with misinformation. They deployed swarms of inexpensive drones to overwhelm targeting systems. When outgunned, they retreated strategically, luring aggressors into minefields seeded in advance. Losses were heavy, but pirates began avoiding human trade lanes. The Conclave attributed these successes to desperation tactics, not strategic brilliance. Humanity, in their view, was improvising, not innovating. Yet behind the scenes, Earth's Unified Space Agency pursued long-term projects shielded from foreign scrutiny. Human scientists collaborated across former national lines with an intensity forged from centuries of competition. Quantum computing research accelerated. Material science breakthroughs allowed lighter but stronger whole composites. Experimental propulsion systems reduced FTL recharge times by fractions that compounded into major strategic advantages. Culturally, humanity remained chaotic by galactic standards. Their media transmitted stories filled with heroism, rebellion, sacrifice, and defiance. Conclave observers found these narratives unsettling. Most advanced civilizations had long ago smoothed their mythologies into stable, orderly epics reinforcing compliance and continuity. Human stories celebrated disruption. They admired individuals who challenged systems. They romanticized underdogs who defied overwhelming odds. Primitive, the Conclave repeated. But primitive species were not supposed to improve this quickly. Within 50 years of first contact, human fleet tonnage had tripled. Within a century, their shipyard rivaled minor Conclave members. Their AI-driven logistics networks optimized supply chains with ruthless efficiency. They invested heavily in education, ensuring each colony produced engineers, scientists, and officers at rates disproportionate to their population size. They also studied the Conclave. Every treaty clause, every fleet maneuver, every historical conflict, humans consumed galactic history with endemic obsession. They identified patterns in how dominant powers responded to threats. They cataloged weaknesses in alliance structures. They noticed complacency embedded in long-standing hierarchies. Still, publicly, they remained deferential. Cooperative Egypt. The Conclave saw a young species striving to belong. They did not see a civilization that had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and self-inflicted catastrophes. They did not see the quiet resolve shaped by near extinction more than once. They saw primitive holes in emotional speeches and assumed predictability. Humanity knew it was considered inferior. They did not resent it. They prepared for the day it would matter. Because if there was one lesson etched into their collective memory, it was this: being underestimated is not a weakness, it is an advantage. And the galaxy, vast and ancient, had just welcomed a species that had spent its entire history turning disadvantage into dominance.